The night split open with Clara's scream as thunder rattled the window panes. Her heart slammed against her chest as she clutched the box her grandmother had given her. The old woman's voice echoed, "Protect it, never open at night." Clara's hands shook, yet curiosity burned brighter than fear. She pulled away the ribbon, revealing the vintage dollhouse carved with strange symbols. The tiny windows glimmered in the lightning flash as if eyes watched her. A whisper hissed through the empty room. Clara said, "This isn't real, it can't be real." But the dolls inside slowly shifted, their painted eyes turning toward her. A chilling draft swept across the room, slamming the door shut. Clara gasped, realizing she was no longer alone. The room fell silent after the door slammed. Clara pressed her back against the cold wall, clutching her chest. Her pulse thundered in her ears, louder than the storm. She whispered, "Grandma, what did you give me?" The dollhouse sat unmoving on the desk, yet the air seemed alive, vibrating with menace. She forced herself to step closer, legs trembling. Clara's reflection warped in the dollhouse glass, distorted into a cruel smile. She gasped and looked away, heart pounding. She wanted to run, yet something held her still, an invisible pull dragging her nearer. The storm outside grew distant, muffled, as if the world beyond the room was fading. The silence deepened until it became unbearable. Clara edged closer to the dollhouse, every step like sinking into quicksand. Her breath fogged faintly, though the room was not cold. She whispered, "It's just wood, just paint, nothing more." Yet the doll's eyes glittered with awareness. One doll leaned unnaturally, its tiny porcelain arm pointing at her. She stumbled back, nearly tripping over the rug. The silence broke with a faint rhythmic tapping, like fingernails on glass. Clara's eyes darted to the window, but nothing was there. The tapping grew louder, synchronized with her heartbeat. Her skin prickled, her mouth dry. She reached out with trembling fingers, desperate to close the dollhouse lid. Clara slammed the dollhouse lid shut, but the tapping continued from within. Her breath came ragged, chest heaving. She cried out, "Stop, leave me alone." Her voice cracked, breaking the suffocating silence. For a heartbeat, everything went still. Then the lid slowly creaked open again by itself. Clara's eyes widened in horror as the dolls inside had rearranged. Now they sat in a perfect circle, all staring outward. Her knees buckled, and she grabbed the table for support. The whisper came again, softer now, "Stay." Clara shook her head violently, tears streaking her face. The storm outside no longer mattered. The real terror was inside this room. Clara stumbled backward until she hit the door. She grabbed the handle, twisting furiously, but it refused to open. Panic surged, choking her. She screamed, "Let me out!" Her knuckles turned white as she pounded on the wood. Behind her, the dollhouse glowed faintly, light seeping through its windows like fire from within. Clara dared not turn around, but the air grew hot, pressing against her skin. The whisper became a chorus, low voices overlapping in cruel harmony. She dropped to her knees, sobbing, "Please, make it stop." The glow intensified, shadows crawling up the walls. Clara knew the house had awakened. Clara sat hunched on the floor, back pressed to the locked door. Her eyes were fixed on the dollhouse, glowing faintly in the dark. The storm outside had weakened, yet the air inside felt heavier. She whispered, "I'm not afraid of you." Her voice cracked, betraying the lie. The dolls had shifted again, now aligned at the windows, as if staring outward. Their tiny faces were blank, yet their gaze pinned her. A faint scratching came from within the walls, rising in tempo like 1,000 tiny claws. Clara covered her ears, but the sound was inside her skull. The silence of her grandmother's warning returned to her, suffocating her with its meaning. The scratching grew louder until it snapped into silence. Clara opened her eyes, realizing she had been crying. Her breath fogged, though the room was stifling hot. She forced herself to crawl toward the dollhouse, trembling but drawn in. "If I destroy it, maybe this ends," she muttered. Her hands hovered above it, but heat radiated from the tiny roof, blistering her fingertips. The dolls inside had arranged themselves in a single row, each arm raised in unison. Their blank faces seemed alive, mocking her. Clara's stomach twisted, bile rising in her throat. She staggered back, clutching her wrist as if burned. Clara stumbled across the room, bumping into the nightstand. A framed photo of her grandmother toppled, cracking the glass. She froze, staring at the image of the old woman smiling faintly. The whisper grew distinct now, carrying words. "Stay with us, Clara." Her skin went cold, heart pounding violently. She picked up the frame, her reflection fractured in the broken glass. Her lips trembled as she whispered back, "Why me? What do you want from me?" The silence answered, thicker than before. Shadows gathered in the corners, pulling inward toward the dollhouse, as if it were a black hole consuming the room. Clara pressed the broken frame to her chest, rocking slightly. Tears blurred her vision, dripping onto the carpet. The whisper rose again, harsher now, like many voices layered. She screamed, "Leave me alone!" Her voice ricocheted against the walls, swallowed by silence. The dolls had shifted once more, now seated at a miniature dining table inside the dollhouse. A chair stood empty, waiting. Clara staggered forward, unable to resist looking. Her breath caught in her throat. The tiny empty chair seemed meant for her. Fear rooted her feet, but something deeper twisted in her chest, a pull toward that waiting seat. Clara backed away, clutching her head as whispers clawed through her skull. The room tilted, spinning with the pull of the dollhouse. She collapsed onto the rug, chest heaving. Her nightdress clung with sweat. She whispered, "This isn't real. This isn't real." But the dollhouse pulsed like a beating heart, its glow synchronized with her breath. The whispers grew louder, forming her name over and over. Her body trembled, paralyzed by fear and exhaustion. She clawed weakly at the rug, trying to crawl toward the door. Yet her head turned involuntarily toward the dollhouse. Its empty chair waited patiently, as if it already knew she would come. Clara awoke sprawled on the rug, her body heavy as stone. The storm outside had vanished, replaced by unnatural silence. She blinked, realizing her room looked smaller. The bed loomed larger, the curtains longer, as though she had shrunk. Her gaze snapped to the dollhouse. It now sat open, its rooms perfectly mirroring her own, down to the cracked photo frame and overturned candle. She whispered, "No, this isn't possible." Her voice echoed strangely, as if bouncing inside a hollow shell. The dolls had vanished from the windows. Clara crawled toward the desk, her trembling hand reaching, desperate to shut the miniature world before it consumed her entirely. The miniature world flickered, and Clara's breath caught. Inside the dollhouse, a smaller version of herself was crawling across a tiny rug, mirroring her every move. She gasped, jerking back in horror. The reflection doll froze, then turned its head slowly, out of sync with her. Its porcelain face split into a crooked smile. Clara clutched her stomach, nausea rising. "It's copying me, but it's not me." The words tumbled from her lips in a whisper. The doll lifted a hand, beckoning her closer. A wave of cold washed over her skin as she realized the doll was inviting her inside. Clara staggered backward, crashing into the wall. The air grew heavy, pressing against her chest like a weight. The miniature Clara stepped away from the dollhouse rug and into another tiny room, her exact bedroom, replicated in terrifying detail. Clara's voice shook as she said, "It's alive, it's real." The tiny figure tilted its head, eyes glinting with cruel light. The larger room shuddered, the ceiling creaking as if responding to the miniature movement. Clara clutched the cracked photo frame against her chest, rocking slightly. The line between her world and the dollhouse blurred until she couldn't tell which one she was in. The air rippled like water. Clara blinked, and suddenly the dollhouse walls stretched around her. She stumbled, realizing she was standing inside its miniature parlor. The air smelled of dust and rot. Dolls sat rigid on tiny chairs, their painted faces staring blankly. She whispered, "No, I'm inside." Panic surged, her breath short and ragged. She spun toward the door, but it was no bigger than a child's toy, too small for her to open. One doll's head turned with a grinding creak, following her movement. Clara froze, every muscle stiff. The realization struck. She had crossed into their world, and there was no way back. Clara pressed her trembling hands against the wall, searching for cracks or exits. The wallpaper peeled like ancient skin, revealing wood carved with strange symbols. She whispered, "Grandma, what have you done?" The dolls rose in unison, chairs scraping against the floor in shrill protest. Their tiny porcelain feet clicked against the wood as they moved closer, surrounding her in a tightening circle. Clara's throat closed, sweat dripping down her spine. She screamed, "Stay away from me!" but the dolls only tilted their heads, closing in. The room pulsed with a faint heartbeat, the walls breathing. Clara realized with terror that the dollhouse was alive. Clara's knees buckled as the circle of dolls closed in. She pressed her palms to the wall, praying for escape. The wallpaper peeled further, exposing carved runes glowing faintly. Her voice cracked as she whispered, These symbols, I've seen them before." Memories flooded her. Her grandmother's attic, books bound in cracked leather, the same strange markings. Clara's lips trembled. It was never just a toy. It's a curse. The dolls froze, their glassy eyes reflecting her terror. One whispered in a childlike voice, "Blood keeps us." Clara's stomach dropped. She staggered back, realizing her family had carried this nightmare for generations. The room quaked as the dolls stepped aside, revealing a shadow at the far end. Clara froze, breath shallow. Out of the darkness emerged a figure cloaked in black, face obscured. His voice was calm, almost soothing. "You were never told the truth, Clara." Her chest tightened as she whispered, "Who are you?" The figure tilted his head, "A keeper of what your bloodline has bound." Clara's heart raced. She clutched her grandmother's cracked photo frame tighter. "Why me?" she pleaded. The man's tone sharpened, "Because you're the last. The house has chosen." The dolls bowed their heads toward him in eerie unison. Clara's throat tightened as she stepped back, voice trembling. "What do you want from me?" The cloaked man's eyes glinted under the hood. Survival or surrender. He raised a hand, and the dolls parted, revealing a small ghostly figure behind them, a girl, translucent, eyes sunken with sorrow. Clara gasped, "Who is she?" The figure whispered, "I was like you. I never left." Tears welled in Clara's eyes as realization struck. This was the tragic victim, bound forever to the dollhouse. Clara's voice broke, "No, you're trapped here." The girl nodded slowly, her lips trembling as if to warn her, but no words followed. Clara fell to her knees, trembling as the ghostly child stepped closer. The girl's whisper was almost broken. "Run, if you can." Clara's tears streaked her face, but the cloaked man snapped sharply, "Silence!" The child vanished instantly, dissolving into mist. Clara's scream tore through the suffocating air. She turned on the cloaked figure, shouting, "You're keeping them here. You did this." His calm returned, voice steady. "I am but the keeper. The curse began long before me." Clara clutched the runes with bloodied fingers, desperate to carve them away. But the walls pulsed with life, resisting her touch. The parlor shook violently as the cloaked man raised both arms. Shadows writhed along the walls, swallowing the room in darkness. Clara cried out, "What do you want from me?" His reply was calm yet cutting, "To face what your bloodline began." The dolls' eyes glowed faintly, their porcelain mouths opening in unison, releasing a piercing shriek. Clara dropped the photo frame, clutching her ears in agony. Her grandmother's face cracked into shards across the floor. Clara screamed, "Tell me the truth." But the only answer was the chorus of dolls, their scream echoing as if 1,000 voices demanded her submission. Clara's screams echoed in the suffocating darkness, until suddenly the room shifted. She blinked, and she was no longer alone. A man stood at the far side of the parlor, holding a lantern, her childhood friend Daniel, the skeptic. His voice trembled. "Clara, what is this place? I heard you screaming." Relief washed over her before dread returned. She whispered, "You shouldn't be here." Daniel shook his head. "This isn't real, Clara. It's in your mind. None of this can exist." She clutched his arm desperately, whispering, "Don't say that. They hear you." The dolls shifted, their porcelain faces twisting as if insulted by his disbelief. Daniel lifted the lantern higher, its glow trembling. "Clara, this house isn't alive. You're exhausted, imagining things." His rational tone cut like a knife. Clara shook violently. "No, Daniel, look at them." She pointed at the dolls. As if on cue, one doll turned its head with a jagged snap, glass eyes locking onto him. Daniel froze, his bravado faltering. Clara whispered, "Do you believe me now?" The lantern flickered, and Daniel's voice cracked. "It's a trick of the light." But his hands shook. The dolls began to rise in unison, tiny feet clicking against the wooden floor. Their movements were deliberate, like predators circling prey. The parlor vibrated with the clicking of porcelain feet. Daniel backed against the wall, his face pale. "This can't be happening," he muttered, voice breaking. Clara clung to him, her nails digging into his arm. She whispered, "They want us trapped. They feed on denial." Daniel shook his head. "This isn't real. It's just a nightmare." The dolls froze, then all turned their heads toward Clara at once. Their mouths opened, and a chorus of whispers filled the room, repeating her name. Clara gasped, her heart racing. She realized the dolls were not after Daniel. They wanted her, and always had. Clara fell to her knees, covering her ears as the whispers grew louder. "Stop!" she cried, tears streaming down her face. Daniel dropped the lantern, rushing to pull her up. His voice shook. "Clara, fight this! Don't let them win!" But she saw it clearly now, symbols on the doll's porcelain skin glowing like scars. They matched the runes on the walls, the same ones etched into her grandmother's attic books. Clara's breath caught. "It's me," she whispered. Daniel leaned down. "What?" Clara sobbed. "The curse. It's my blood. I'm the reason it's alive." Her confession shook the room, shadows writhing in response. The cloaked man's voice returned, echoing from the walls. "Now you see, Clara, you were never the victim. You are the vessel." Clara's stomach twisted violently. She screamed, "No, I won't be part of this." The dolls surged forward, circling tighter, their whispers merging into a deafening roar. Daniel grabbed her hand, pulling her toward the tiny door in the corner. "We have to get out," he shouted. But the door shrank before their eyes, smaller with every step. Clara sobbed, "It won't let us leave." The cloaked man's laughter filled the parlor. "There is no leaving, only surrender." The walls pulsed with a heartbeat that was not her own. Clara clung to Daniel's hand, her body trembling as the dolls closed in. The cloaked man stepped forward, his voice calm yet merciless. "There is no escape, Clara, only acceptance." Daniel pulled her closer, shouting, "We fight, Clara. We don't give in." She shook her head, eyes wild. "You don't understand. It's in me. It's always been in me." The room shuddered violently, runes burning brighter across the wallpaper. Clara's scream tore through the air as her skin prickled with heat, her veins glowing faintly like molten lines. Daniel tightened his grip, pulling Clara back as shadows stretched toward them. His voice cracked. "You're stronger than this. You don't belong to it." Clara's tears burned hot against her cheeks. "I was born to it, Daniel. I am its vessel." The cloaked man's tone sharpened. "Finally, she admits the truth." The dolls clapped in eerie unison, their tiny hands snapping together like bones breaking. Clara's body shook violently, her breath ragged. She whispered, "I feel it inside me, a hunger." Her eyes flickered with unnatural light, a reflection of the curse claiming her blood. Clara staggered forward, clutching her chest. The ghostly girl reappeared, her hollow eyes wide with fear. She whispered, "Don't let it take you. Fight." Clara's breath hitched, her knees buckling. "I can't. It's stronger than me." The child reached out, translucent fingers brushing Clara's hand. A jolt of warmth surged through her body, a fleeting glimpse of resistance. The cloaked man roared, "Enough!" The girl dissolved in a wisp of mist, ripped away. Clara screamed, "Bring her back!" Her voice cracked under rage and grief. Shadows coiled tighter around her, suffocating, feeding on her despair. The parlor twisted violently, furniture sliding as if dragged by unseen hands. Daniel yelled, pulling Clara toward him. "We can still get out." Clara's scream cut him off. "Don't you see? It doesn't want you, it wants me." The cloaked man laughed, voice deep and echoing. "She understands. You are the curse, Clara. Your blood sustains us." Clara's veins glowed brighter, spreading up her arms like fire beneath skin. She shrieked, clawing at herself as if to tear it out. Daniel grabbed her face, whispering fiercely, "Fight it. Fight for who you are." Her eyes locked with his, trembling between surrender and defiance. The dolls surged forward, their chorus of whispers exploding into screams. Clara clutched Daniel's hand, her voice trembling. "If I fight, it will kill me." His eyes burned with desperation. "Then die fighting, Clara. Don't let it win." The cloaked man roared, shadows consuming the walls until only the three of them remained in a void. Clara screamed, veins blazing as the curse ripped through her. Her body arched, suspended in midair. She cried out, "I am not your vessel." A shockwave burst from her chest, hurling dolls into shards. The cloaked man staggered back, his face revealed, pale, cracked porcelain, not human at all. The shockwave left silence in its wake. Shards of porcelain scattered across the parlor floor. Clara collapsed, her body trembling, chest heaving as if every breath might be her last. Daniel rushed to her side, voice frantic, "Clara, stay with me." She coughed, blood trickling from her lips, whispering, "I heard it, but it's not gone." Her gaze shifted to the cloaked man's shattered mask. Beneath his face was fractured porcelain, light bleeding through the cracks like fire refusing to die. Clara sobbed, "It's endless, it won't stop." Daniel gripped her hand tighter, but fear haunted his eyes. The cloaked man rose slowly, fragments of porcelain falling from his hollow face. His voice carried no pain, only amusement. "You cannot kill what was born of your blood." Clara's eyes widened, tears flooding down her cheeks. Daniel shouted, "Stay back!" holding up the lantern like a shield. The man laughed, his body flickering like smoke, reforming as cracks sealed shut. Clara's voice shook. "I gave everything, and it still lives." Her body sagged against Daniel's arms, strength draining from her veins. The runes on the walls pulsed brighter, as though mocking her defiance. The ghostly girl appeared once more, her hollow eyes filled with sorrow. She knelt beside Clara, whispering, "You can't break it, but you can contain it." Clara's chest rose shallowly, her lips trembling. "How?" she croaked. The child pressed a tiny hand against Clara's chest, and a pulse of light flickered. "Sacrifice. One must stay, forever." Daniel's eyes widened in horror. "No, Clara, don't listen to her." Clara's gaze softened with tragic clarity. "It was always meant to be me." She brushed Daniel's face with trembling fingers. "I love you, but I can't leave this undone." Clara pulled herself upright, every muscle trembling. She staggered toward the dollhouse, its glow pulsing like a beating heart. Daniel cried out, "No, don't do this." She whispered, "It ends with me." The cloaked man tilted his head, watching silently. Clara pressed her hands to the dollhouse roof, runes flaring under her touch. A scream tore from her throat as light burst through her body, veins blazing. Dolls collapsed into dust, their whispers silenced at last. Daniel reached for her, sobbing, "Clara, stop!" But her eyes already glowed with finality. "Goodbye, Daniel." Her voice was steady, even as her form began to fade. The light faded, leaving Daniel alone in the parlor. The dollhouse sat silent on the table, its glow extinguished. Clara was gone. His breath came in ragged gasps as he stumbled forward, whispering her name. The cloaked man had vanished, leaving only shards of porcelain scattered like bones. Daniel collapsed to his knees, tears streaking his face. Then faintly, the dollhouse's windows flickered with light once more. A tiny porcelain figure stood inside, Clara, frozen, eyes wide with silent terror. Daniel's scream broke the silence, echoing in the void, as the dollhouse door creaked shut on its newest prisoner.